So, how was your Thanksgiving? Great. I went to a Unitarian Universalist potluck, and if I wanted to do a comedy routine instead of a sermon, it could start exactly that way. In any case, we all know that such days are for food, fellowship, and of course, giving thanks. But that, of course, could be inflected in different ways. I could say with great irony, did you get enough to eat? Are you still enjoying the abundance that the season calls for? The actual holiday of Thanksgiving, the literal, what we did a couple of days ago, is not necessarily what I'm going to talk about today, because the actual literal Thanksgiving is not always an occasion for gratitude. One of the great quotes in all of literature is Tolstoy's statement, "All happy families are alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy its own way." And I'll leave it to your imagination how some election year Thanksgivings might go with relatives of different stripes and extended families. But it could always be worse. We celebrate the heritage of the Pilgrims, really, but they weren't the only ones at the table. So I'm really using the literal holiday of Thanksgiving as a pretext, as an excuse even, to go somewhere that I think is really cool and I'd like to share. And the most spot-on point about the comparison to the literal holiday for me is what happens to all that food? It's a feast, after all. It's a celebration of abundance. It's a cornucopia. So where does all of that go? What becomes of that cornucopia? Leftovers have a life of their own, don't they? It starts with, oh, yummy. There's more of Aunt Ethel's sweet potato casserole, and then it becomes more of the same until it's the same old, same old. Gratitude in our lives can be like that. It can become the same old that we ironically even take for granted, giving thanks sometimes. So my sermon is in a way about recovering the flavor of that gratitude, the taste of it when we're really feeling it. My sermon is about recovering that flavor of giving thanks even in the super casserole of daily life. Many of you know that I've been writing a book. The title of it is Wisdom on the Way, World Viewing Through the Chaos to See Ourselves Whole. The book is divided into sections, a little like an introductory philosophy text might be, and one of the sections was called, How Can I Find Spiritual Perspective? But as many UUs might relate to, the word spiritual was giving me a little bit of dis-ease, not because of what it means, but because of how people might take it if I'm writing a book for a wide readership, I hope. So that actually changed to a new thing just last week that relates to my sermon. My new section title, somewhere, is How Can I Find What Feeds My Spirit? I wanted, instead of spiritual, to focus on my spirit. Because whether or not you've got a soul, whether or not you do soul food, you've got a spirit. And spirit can be used in anything from school spirit on up to the Holy Spirit. So it's a word we can all relate to in our own way. But the spirit, the section when I'm talking about how can I find what feeds my spirit, it may be a question about how do I even identify what that is? Or if I've identified it, how do I bring more of that into my life? So it's in that spirit that I'm wanting to feed our spirits this morning. Gratitude is food for the spirit. Consider, what is the opposite of gratitude? I propose that its opposite is taking for granted. Instead of giving thanks, we take for granted. Granted by whom? Granted by what? When I take things for granted, I'm ignoring the grant, the giving, the gift, if you will. I'm behaving as if I could have conjured all this out of my own imagination, of my own self. One religion, a legally cognized religion, in fact, whose had fundamental principles which included the respect for the interdependent web of which we are all a part. In that spirit, to really give thanks, for a meal even, is to be grateful, to enter into that giving of thanks for nature's bounty, grateful perhaps for living animals or even plants that nourish us, grateful for those who toiled in the fields or trucked over the highways, grateful for those essential workers who are always there to serve us when we need them. When I take for granted, I reduce this expansive life world to a tiny zone of self-absorption. Imagine a new play coming to a theater near you very soon. A Thanksgiving Carol with Old Ebenezer. Our play opens at the Thanksgiving dinner table as the hostess is inspired to offer thanks and to have us all join in that and go around the table and say what we're thankful for. And it comes to Old Ebenezer, grateful. And may I ask in whose home we're seated? And may I ask whose salaries have paid for this food we're eating? And may I ask even for those who prepared this food, what roof is over their heads and to whom that roof is due? Grateful? Bah, humbug. And so there could be an opposite to Thanksgiving that was a seasonal regularity. Some of you may even have homes that work that way. I don't know. In any case, the opposite of that is a helpful contrast for me. Because for me, what that exemplifies is that I'm not giving, I'm assuming. And it's not a matter of thanks, it's a matter of entitlement. I am entitled to this because I bought it, because I'm rich, because nobody ever gave me anything. I did it all myself. And there may be people that you know who are like that. Maybe entire cultures you know that are pretty much like that. In any case, giving thanks is the very opposite of an assumption of entitlement. The contrast there is a good way to open into deeper possibilities or extensions of what gratitude might be. Yes, gratitude involves mindfulness in the present moment. But my title aims to invite you to more than that present moment. What nourishes this moment? Can I be mindful, too, of how I am included in the bigger picture? Can I be more aware of how the past feeds the present and what futures might open from that, and how within all those connections, something like gratitude opens out even further? So in a way, my title is less a matter of where we go from gratitude, and would be more accurately put if I'd thought of it before I was writing the sermon. But I gave you the title, so I had to speak to the title, right? But a better title for what I'm saying would be, how do I go forth in gratitude? It's not as good a sermon title, though. So I'll stick to the other one, but what I'm talking about is how I go forth in gratitude, right? So I offer the, for me, uncharacteristic, sermon-y set of 4 ways that we might go in gratitude. Those of you who know me know that I despise homiletics. It sounds canned. It bores the pants off of me. There are people who do it beautifully. I'm not saying that people who give sermons that are conventional in format. Jack has done it brilliantly a number of times, and to me has mastered the weaving together of the personal and the unexpected with the familiar and comforting forms. But in any case, never mind about all that, because I'm going to be sermoning and give you 4 exemplary modes in which we might move forward in gratitude. Number 1, because in enumerating them, I stress to you that this is a comfortable format within which you can feel like you're getting a sermon that you can remember something from. Can you link gratitude to something you regularly enjoy, like a hobby? When I got back from that potluck Thursday and I was putting dishes away and washed up the corn pudding stuff, and all of a sudden I thought of Dan Fogelberg's song from his second album, Illinois, which has a line, "I may miss the harvest, but I won't miss the feast." And I started grooving. Well, what would be some Thanksgiving music? So I put together a playlist that's now 7 hours long that I call Cornucopia. Among other things, like That's the Way of the World by Earth, Wind, and Fire. When's the last time you listened to that? In fact, oh man, great stuff. So that for me was a way of setting up music, because I kind of enjoy music. I do things with music. It's really fun for me, and I play music a lot. So now, the next day, driving here in a car, I plug that playlist in and hit random. And I don't know what's going to come up, but it's all out of the spirit of giving thanks. It's all the sense of like, whoa, life is good. So for me, that's a way that I can hook into that in an intentional way that goes on in my life. And I've done something else there too. I have linked, because I spoke of what I enjoy, right? Music brings me joy. So when I can associate that giving thanks kind of gratitude with something I find joy in, that I'm going in joy with gratitude, or I'm going in gratitude with joy. Either way you put it, I've made a link there that's pretty cool stuff. Number 2, not everyone loves music. Not everyone has a hobby they enjoy in a way that they could link that to. Can you find that you are grateful to others in ways that you have not expressed? Sometimes we tell people, boy, I really appreciate that about you. You're so great at that, or thank you so much. There may be times that we don't. There may be people who seem like, they do the stuff that you really appreciate or grateful for, but they just don't seem that kind of like they'd want to hear it from you. So if you think in terms of that as opportunity, what you haven't yet expressed, is it possible that you might find a way to share that so that it even deepens and extends the special connection you feel with that person or those people? So gratitude can also be something in which we go forth toward an even more open heart. It can be open-hearted in terms of other people. It can bring us toward new people in terms of the circles that open through social relationships and other factors in our lives with each other. Number 3, can you gather together the different conditions that have made this gratitude possible? So imagine that you're just feeling grateful for something. You're giving thanks for something, any particular something, or like, God, this is the best, whatever. The best song I've heard in ages. Can I then go from that experience of gratitude to all the things that in their ways have made possible this exact song? What had to happen for the piano to develop over centuries to have this sound? What had to happen in the life of that songwriter for them to combine just these images with this thing they're reaching for, with this uncanny ability to match that to the music in a way that moves one? I could be thankful for all the different ways that this has reached me. There's music out there that would blow my mind completely that I've never heard. One of the things I love about this digital age is the thought that there could be 1,000 years from now, someone discovering a song that just some kid made in her living room, and it's the greatest thing ever done. I mean, aesthetic taste changes. The Mona Lisa was real good, and then it was like, yeah, okay, whatever, it's a painting, and then it was the greatest thing ever when I was a kid. Taste does that. And so there's all sorts of depth of possibility out there. So Can I think the different things that had to happen together to make just this delicious flavor possible and to find its way to my senses today? Oh, that's kind of an interesting exercise, isn't it? It calls our attention back to that interdependent web, because now we're connecting one moment that we're in to the past, and through that to this way that we're connected and mindful of that interdependence. And not only the past, but the future brings me to number 4. That's right, 4. Counting, you're good parishioners this morning. Can you be grateful for the abundant possibilities that this moment might open up to, even without knowing what are going to be real, what will happen? Can you be grateful for what might happen before it happens, even if it ends up not happening? Can you give thanks for the possibilities that this day, this moment, this life offer, and in which you find yourself? That is a really cool thing. And in fact, I find, as I understand it in the Course in Miracles, in the Law of Attraction, in Joe Dispenza's stuff on meditation, all over the place, one of the spiritual practices, for those who don't mind the word spiritual, whether you visualize, intend, manifest, use any language for it you want, is to be grateful, and in some ways even, for whatever it is you wish you were, whatever it was you wish you had, whatever it was you wish you'd be at, to feel gratitude, even before you're there, for the being on the way that you are. Can you feel that as a kind of gratefulness? That is a spiritual master trick. Pardon? Yes, yes. Now, the wise ones say that that is causally efficacious, but I'm, all right, good. If it is, it is. But to give you an example, there was a book called The Secret that came out, 20 years ago now, and I despised it. I despised it because it was about how to use the power of love that guides the universe to get a red sports car or whatever you want, body like Barbie, whatever you want. It was so the reason that I don't enter into a whole lot of that causal efficacy stuff is because for me, when I'm really feeling the spirit, when my spirit is fed and nourished and like, ooh, gotta share this feast, I'm feeling like that in itself, that being, that awareness, that state of mind, call it what you will, that in itself is the point. I'll come back to that in just a moment. Uh-oh. I think this is number 5, but I didn't write the number 5 next to it. Thank you, attentive parishioners. Can you linger in gratitude, in the awareness of gratitude, long enough, or deeply enough, or causally efficaciously enough, for that to feel like a state of personal peace, a state of contentment, a state of fulfillment, a state of flourishing? Not saving the world, but it may be that sense of wholeness in your own personal life, that sense of integration where you felt splintered, that sense of resiliency where you felt traumatized. Can you enter into gratitude, into just thank yous, in a way that help you get to that place and linger in that place? Because that's a good place to be, isn't it? Oh yeah, I am there. I was afraid I'd skip something. Time flies when you're the one who's talking. I recently, for the first time since my mother's memorial service almost a year and a half ago, was back in Maryland where I grew up. I was staying with my sister who is transitioning her practice from licensed clinical social worker therapy stuff to theta healing life coaching stuff. And so she is in a very, very spiritual place, which we've had roots in similar things that bring us together for a long time. So we were having a very, very high level, really feeling good conversation about something. It turned to what I was doing, and then Karen started asking me some questions. So you say that you're doing blah, 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 and you want the reader to, but in order to what? And I wouldn't understand the question. I'd say, well, in order that, and then I'd say something else, and she'd say, okay, that, in order to what? And my answer to that, I think that both these ways of looking at it are completely legitimate, depending on what you want and what your context is. My answer to that was, not everything has to be a means to something else. Some of the things we value are values in and of themselves. They don't have to be an instrument to some further good, because that in itself is good. I won't give you my list of what some of those things might be. You can make your own, but what if gratitude is one of those things? What if real, sincere, deeply felt giving thanks were one of those things that is valuable in and of itself? Maybe you don't have to go anywhere from gratitude. So you didn't hear this sermon. I didn't have to give it. I could have gone straight to here. I could have said, well, where do you go from gratitude? You don't have to go anywhere. Gratitude is worth everything it is in itself. Boom, there. As a matter of fact, I can see the sign now. Gratitude. If you lived here, you'd be home now. So maybe I could have saved us all some time, but I had promised you a sermon, and so sometimes the journey of getting there helps us to appreciate the destination more fully. We can be more grateful for our feelings of gratitude. So I am grateful, particularly this morning, to all of you, to this place, to this institution, which is not only the people in the room, but is decades of people in Palatka shepherding all the opportunities and possibilities and challenges and interactions of this interdependent web to get us to this point. It is hundreds of years of religious institutions fraught with all that institutions bear amongst them in order to be a larger link to a larger world, to a movement that can give us a sense of meaning sometimes, that can give us nourishment, that can give us a sense of being included in something that we take to be positive and even at best a force of history. So in all of those values, I thank you for giving me this place to feel so much in the middle of all that is good. Thank you.